Gary Stevenson with a V is great. He's just great. He's got a YouTube program called Gary's Economics. He's qualified to do that because he's one of these super bright people that came out of lower class, working class, poor London. You can tell by the way he speaks. We're very supremely gifted at math, which then I believe led him into the city where he went and made millions. And then I think he went to Oxford, or maybe he went to Oxford because he was brilliant at math. I don't know the order of it all. He's so good at stating the obvious, which is very good, brave, heroic, because for some mysterious reason, modern contemporary Western culture has no truck with the obvious. One theory, I think, for this is that if you have a small penis, you're born with one in Western culture, having a big one will overwhelm your days and nights. You will abandon the obvious immediately and seek pumps and pills. And the great joys of common sense, of life, love, creativity, and built bridges will abandon you. The small penis syndrome has motivated the first world for so long now. It's now just funny, or shall we say, musky. My half-brother is now a doctor of pediatrics. In fact, he runs the department. I don't have to say where. It's a big city on your right if you're facing north on the east coast of the United States. At his graduation, I think 15 to 20 years ago, every speaker at the ceremony at the Kennedy Center, the Lincoln Center, in Manhattan, every speaker encouraged the rosy-faced young men and women to fight for universal health care that is free, state-funded health care, not what we have today. No, Medicare does not do that. Medicare is a maze created to screw with old people. Not at all what we have today. So what happened? Gary says, in England, doctors and dentists abound, but the rich are competing for their services. So the poor doctors are forced to do dietary medicine, enlarged penises maybe, and cosmetic surgery. They are coerced by the rich. They're torn away from helping other people. That the kids who are good, in quotes, will use their math degrees to go into finance, not into academia. Why? Because it pays more. The future will have to compete for the services of the good. It's not just that it pays more, it makes you rich. That's obviously compensation for small penis. How? How do you do this? You just pay the good more. Now, finance is being democratized by cryptocurrency. Now you don't even need to be this strange good thing, though the definition changes really fast. St. Francis was good, Jesus was good, Socrates said it was good to seek the good. Now evidence of the good is becoming being rich. What's the point of talent if it doesn't make you rich? I've already tripped over the notion of making tons of money by doing nothing meaningful, Bitcoin, by not working while the old guard still bleats on about the lazy poor. Gary still says good, meaning mathematically talented. He could even say that. Or lucky, still he says good. There are other applications of math talent, not just finance, but the good. It is, so he even says that the people who go, mathematics people who go into academia to teach financial theory and history are either not very good or they are the children of the already wealthy. It is funny. It's really stupid too, and maybe why the people who run for office in our countries, Starmer, Sunak, Trump, are massively stupid people. They are shallow, at least where perhaps there is a kind of home for a kind of intelligence, but on the evidence, the stupidity of the rich is stupendous and unavoidable. And this is narrowness, I suppose, in that kind of ambition that predisposes stupidity. Being good at making money for people born rich Nancy Pelosi, then marrying well, Keir and Rishi, is stretching all definitions. Unless the people who live in the world of the stated obvious grow less gullible, less desperately needy, what we have today, we're going to have tomorrow. We're a culture of lotteries, not of work. Not of people who love life, love to work, to learn, discover, realize, have children they like, not invest in to fulfill what they failed to do, to be what is the great Western super objective. This is the first generation where children will not do better than their parents. Oh, whoa! Oh, is life even worth living? Kids, I'd just kill myself. You didn't do better than your dad. So they do in increasing numbers, and you're killing them. Human beings all over the world live good lives, parent well, love well, die well. Those millions might just look at their children and ask how fulfilled they are in their married, working, parenting lives. I hope they don't ask, are you doing better than I did? If no, well, then you're no good. I'm not sure. I have no idea. No one has. Or maybe there is evidence that we make the assumptions that make us look good. Our lives look good, our modern lives, but I'm not sure what the hunter-gatherer thought of work, or later on the agricultural worker. Apart from Thomas Hardy, it is hard to find a writer who celebrated this life. The life of Gabriel Oakes, sheep farmer and far from the madding crowd. Hardy does. The celebration is so rare it is unforgettable. Most of our poets have concentrated on our Hamlets, people who do not have a job, and whose therefore meaningless lives must be fascinating. The unrich or ungood are just there to describe suffering, which there was much of, no doubt. But how many of the many toffs in Jane Austen does one imagine are happy or fulfilled? Happy is such a flaky notion. And how many would one want to hang with? Darcy? Shakespeare's Henry V imagines the peasant enjoying a careless life, void as they are of responsibility and imagination. Will was so concerned with the thinkings and cares of the super-rich, his own identity has been questioned. How can this genius be the output of an ordinary person? His Hamlet cries out, dying from the baited stab. What a wounded name, things standing thus, shall I leave behind me? O Horatio, in this harsh world, draw thy breath in pain to report my cause aright. And passionate men and women weep this day in England and Boston that poor Shakespeare is calling to us to cleanse his name, reveal my goodness to the world. Well, my study have been, since we have discovered that humans are born with pretty standard, pretty consistent faculties, and if one is a genius in some way, and there are many ways, none of which are hereditary, how do people manifest this variety? That'd be fun. Yes, this is my misanthropic theme, you might say, but is it? It just may be that the good of Gary are not that good. He seems to know this, and the confusion is just in language. I remember heading out to work in London town in 1970-something, age 17, all abuzz with something. I was a cleaner at the British Museum, and the world was my oyster, or London was, and I did sweat in the eye of Phoebus, and all night sleep in Elysium. Next day after dawn I rise, and helped Hyperion to his horse, and followed thus the ever-running year, with profitable labour to my grave, and but for ceremony, such a wretch had the forehand advantage of a king. Gary is a super good guy. He works a lot. He made his ton of money in finance and is now exploring the rest of life for us on YouTube. He makes his various cases brilliantly. He is Thomas Hardy. I guess the final thing that bemuses me in this part of life is that my journey in adulthood, from its beginnings in London after a cornucopia of childhood, a Fernhill childhood, where we had enough, not a lot, Another biography that escapes the efforts of the poets. Ted Hughes, now I remember, an exception. But I had no spur to prick the sides of my intent, no aspiration, no desperate drive to get away from something. And when drama school came along, it was like the white water in the river of life. My nature led me there, unmanipulated or tainted by ambition or something secret. So Gary states the obvious from the inside. The motivation we have been presented with, the all-consuming drive to riches, is silly. Money is not the root of all evil. The desire for it, overwhelming the need for it, to the exclusion of all else, is the root. There are good doctors and dentists all over the world, but someone somewhere wrote a book that good must be paid the most. And it was a bestseller. So looking back over this and allowing more memories to intrude, I see some useful strands. My lucky access to life and its joys meant little need of premeditation. There must have been a lot of yes in my childhood. When the no's came, I was well set up to ignore them, so I have no relationship to the politics of envy. I have not the deprivation necessary to ambition. Or what is it? He hath ambition without the sickness should attend it, as Duchess of Malfi. Ambition is human in the deprived. So the rich among us, like Hamlet, must invent deprivation for themselves. In fact, they envy it. They want some. Still I laugh at the Stedman cartoon, the great Munch scream that is white man's response to what he calls woke. I am so used to being king, I'll not hear another claim. The terrible insanity that father doesn't know best. We must go back to the churches when he told us what was what, when nobody disagreed with my supremacy, but took the first place on the pyramid that stands as thudding as Egypt, the fat base on the bottom where most of us live. But where me and Thomas Hardy find the top at the bottom, while the well-dressed scramble for a place at the sharp end. We should focus on getting rich ourselves. There is the super rich, and we are ordinary people, says Gary. Bernie says every important country in the world has universal health care. Important? Ordinary? I love these lines, but the language is the upside-down pyramid, when the extraordinary and important are everywhere to be found.